will, waypoints or station points in life, critical decisions that we make, people that influence our lives. Sometimes it's a crisis, sometimes it's failure even, that helps to shape and mold how we think and we go about giving our lives to things. But the first precept that we talked about in week number 1 was, if you're going to be a person of significance, you're not going to get there if you make it out about yourself, right? And I'm sure we all have stories of when we tried to make it out about ourselves. Because let's face it, I don't think we'd have a debate very long to come to the conclusion that we live in kind of a narcissistic society. And there's a lot that kind of keeps telling us that it really is about us. And that's why we need good people in our lives to remind us that it's not all about us. But the second precept that we talked about was the importance of having core values. And I thought we had some great interactions and discussions, and it was fascinating to hear some of you all in terms of some really did some soul searching in that whole area of what is my core values. The third precept, if you will, in becoming a person of significance is the importance of relationships. Because coming to that conclusion in life that relationships are our greatest assets and they're not our greatest liabilities, because we keep running into people who seem basically bent in life to give us a hard time or to just kind of get in our way. And how do we learn from those and keep working so that we're giving our life to the right kinds of relationships. And then the fourth one, if you're going to be a person of significance, give yourself to something that's bigger than yourself that you can give your life to. And so we talked about that, and obviously we spent the most time with core values, because I think to really get a handle on that and to have a framework for drilling down on our core values, because it affects so much of the areas of our life, is critically important. But today we're going to have a panel that we're going to talk about that journey a little bit, and I'm going to try to set it up. I'll just throw out a couple of grenades and get them arguing. How's that? That'll be a good discussion. Well, actually, I've had a great time. I've met with each person individually, and some incredible stories of how their journey has been one of discovering what it means to be significant, critical decisions that were made in each person's life, and some of their insights as they've grown and matured. And I think we're going to get some of that today. I'll ask them several different questions, and then we'll keep going as we go. As we're discussing it, if you think of something, keep that in mind, because we'll have time for question and answers with the panel as we move towards it. But the first panelist that we have is Bruce Boyd. And I just, geez, everybody knows Bruce, and yet, do we know Bruce? Who doesn't know Bruce? Well, I'm going to just assume that we don't know everything about Bruce, but, good heavens, Bruce. Why is it this print always gets smaller?
Yeah.
Bruce has actually been in Sidney for 44 years. He gives leadership, of course, to Amos president, serving as the current president and CEO. He's a graduate of Ohio State University and Harvard in degrees in business administration and strategic marketing management. Some of his past community service involved in not only who doesn't know Bruce Boyd, but what board haven't you served on in Shelby County? And Bruce has served on a number, including the YMCA and a number of different positions there. His involvement with Sidney First, the Shelby County Foundation. What's that called now?
Community Foundation.
Yeah, the Community Foundation. And now Amos Memorial Public Library, the United Way, a number of different things, Wilson Hospital. And Bruce has just been a real anchor in our community, and it's great to have you with us. And as we get your insights today. The second person on the panel is Don Eiler, and Don has been married. I don't know why I can't get this thing to work. Just bypass you, Don. I know you're there somewhere.
Thanks, Jeff.
Oh, there you are. Don gives administration and finance leadership as well as spatial events planning as the vice president of Shelby County Chamber. Oh, thank you. Oh my God, I actually made the font big. Oh, jeez. I don't brag about my skills in some areas of life. Don gives administration and finance leadership as well as special events planning and is the vice president of Shelby County Chamber of Commerce, where she has served for over 15 years. She is married to her husband, Barry. Many of you know him. They have one daughter, Keaton, who is a freshman at Sidney High School. Dawn's free time is spent watching Keaton at one of her basketball or soccer tournaments. Dawn has attended Sidney First Church her entire life and is currently serving on their staff parish relations team. Among the many volunteer programs she is involved in, serving as a counselor at Tar Hollow and a number of different things in the community. And Dawn really is connected with what's going on in the business community in Sidney, and she really brings a good perspective, but also some life experiences as her and her husband were also involved and have been involved in business and business ownership, and they know a little bit of the struggles with that. Mary Smith, what a privilege to have Mary. She's the current, well, just about everything at Christian Academy, but she's the superintendent there. She's pursued a lifetime passion of educating young minds by starting off as a second and third grade teacher in Kinsman, Ohio. She served there for 5 years and then became the superintendent here at Sidney Christian Academy. She serves the community of Sidney in a number of capacities, her most recent being a board member for the Alpha Center. She's been married to Mark, her husband, for 40 years, and they have 3 children and 7 grandchildren. And Mary just brings a unique perspective to us as she's connected to so many in the faith community, but a heart and passion for the impact in this community for educating kids and serving people. And so, Mary, we're pleased to have you as well. And then the fourth member of our panel, if I can find you here. Oh yeah, there you are. We even have your mugshot, but we can't show it there tonight. But it's been my privilege over the last little bit to get to know Bruce Toll better. And I tell you what an incredible heart Bruce has. Bruce graduated from the University of Michigan. I don't hold that against him. With a mechanical engineering degree, and he worked as an oil field as a service engineer in Houston. Is one of his first jobs for 7 years. He used this experience to later become the engineer manager for LifeTech International in Muskegon, Michigan. And then he became the vice president for manufacturing for Leroy International, and then serves in that capacity in everyday technologies here in Sidney, and works real close with his brother Mike. And they have an incredible connection in this community, and Bruce, it's such a privilege to have you here, married to his wife Catherine. They have 4 children, Jonathan, Zachary, BJ, and Billy. And we got a great team here, and so I'm going to ask them to come up and sit on our high top chairs, and we'll kind of kick it off with some discussion here. Talking about the whole issue of significance. I wish we had multiple microphones, and so we're going to fumble around a little bit in this today. But gang, great to be here and to have you guys share together. And we've been talking about the whole issue of significance. I have a couple of questions here. And the first one is, as we've discussed becoming a person of significance over the past couple of months, particular in our discussions has either caught your attention? Were there any aha moments? And what are some of those lessons that you've learned in your journey about becoming a person of significance? And I wonder, Bruce, if you'll get us kicked off.
Have to hold both of these?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to walk upstairs and chew gum at the same time.
I think really the most significant, I don't know what you call it, aha moment, the most significant thing to me in the discussions we've had so far is this concept of having a contemplative life. For me, thinking about a contemplative life is not something that really came very naturally for me. My life, as I reflect on it, has been always filled with something, and if it wasn't filled with something, I filled it with something. Whether it was positive, filling my time. So thinking about a contemplative life has been something that I really had to force myself to start saying, okay, I need to be reflective. Maybe my age, when I'm thinking about what am I going to do with the rest of my life, I need to be a little contemplative about what to do with that.
Okay.
So that's what, for me, that's what's important.
Good. Maybe you pass it down to on and in.
Great, that's fine. Thank you so much. I think for me, when we started to talk about core values, that was what kind of my aha moment was. I know what my values are, but if I ever thought in my core, what is it that makes me me? And what is it that I value? And what is it that, no matter what, that's my core. So for me, I have to take a look at who I am and what actually my core values are in order to become a person of significance. So that was a really challenging thing for me to look into that, but also a good time for me to reflect on my life and where I want to go from here. So, thank you.
Well, I think for myself, the core values was an important factor. But I loved it when one of the sentences was, what would you die for? And that really helped me to prioritize and think about, when my life is over, where will I have put all my emphasis in my life? And so then to start there and then to come back with what are my core values to get me there. I think it's so easy in business, we're constantly making plans and that kind of thing, but I don't know that I had ever really sat down in my life and mapped where I wanted to go. And this is just a great age to do that. I wish I'd done a lot sooner, but better late than never.
Well, it sounds like we're all thinking in the same vein a little bit here. I was going to say that the thing I think that impacted me the most was the idea that really look at my personal core values. We do visioning and core values in our business. I have to say that I didn't quite do as good a job in my own personal life, so it just was an opportunity for me to really sit down and really meditate on what my core values are, and also the understanding that some of those core values may not be actually assisting me in leading a life of significance. So that was a thing that really has impacted me throughout this. And also the idea, about assessing what our core values are. Does our life really reflect that? So it's sort of this auditing process that I've done in my life, and hopefully will continue to do that.
That's great. I just had this wonderful time over the last 2 weeks just meeting with these 4 panelists and spending an hour or two with them, just interviewing them and getting some of their insights. Because I had the hunch that none of us got there by just taking an off-the-shelf kind of manual and following it, and somehow we got there. It's a process that we all go through of discovery and trial and error, and God unique situations or people into our life. And I guess that would be my next question, if you could think about that for a minute. Who in your life modeled for you being a person of significance, and why? And what are some of the things that kind of imprinted you to say, hey, I want to kind of be like that. I want to go in that direction. Because all of us have. And I know, Dawn, you've had, and so I'm going to ask you first, if you don't mind.
For me, and I apologize, it gets me a little choked up and things like that. My apologies ahead of time. But for me, my person of significance in my life has been my father. For many of you, you know that my father passed away in November of 2012 of battling cancer for 5 years. Over that 5-year battle, I knew we were as close as you could be. We were best friends. We did so many things together. He didn't have to be all that he was to me, but he was. When I was young, my biological father and my mother split, and my father, Steve Evans, he adopted me and raised me his entire life. And my mother, when they divorced when I was 9, she moved away and got married when I was 12, and I got the opportunity to live with him and be with him. And we spent all that time together, and the lessons in life that he taught me that I'm not even sure that he knew at that time, how much he influenced me and how much he taught me. But when he was sick over the past 5 years, watching him was devastating, of course, the person that you love the most, but he turned his life around in that time. He didn't have a great faith. We didn't discuss it all that much, but in the final time that he had gotten his cancer back, he knew that it was terminal. And I was afraid. I didn't know what was to come. But it gave him just enough time, about 6 months, to get his life together and get that spiritual mentor. And the amazing turnaround in his life and his spiritual journey was such a lesson for me, that it's never too late. He was 64 years old, and it was never too late in watching him completely evolve and just love God, and just, it was incredible. So for me, my dad, hands down, best leader for me. Which way do you want me to go? Bruce, Mary. Mary, you're right. Bruce said you. Sorry.
Okay. There have been a number of people in my life, and as I thought about, this was one of the questions we got to see ahead of time, so I overthought it. Yeah, like he told us to write. There's a man, his name is Bob Montgomery, and when I came to Sidney, 2 days after we were here, the superintendent retired, and we had moved from the other side of the state. Most of you know that story, but it was a devastating time in my life. And Bob Montgomery was the assistant principal. And so he went forward and got school started, and eventually became my mentor in becoming the superintendent. What made him significant was his love for the Lord. I mean, you can't help but know that about somebody when you spend a lot of time with them. And there's a drawing, I think, that happens with that. The other thing was that he was very good at looking at my weaknesses and helping me to face those and go forward. And he was, I'm trying, but anybody that knows me, he was very good at naming my gifts. And as an adult, I don't know that people around us do that often enough. Say, you're just good at this. The Lord's blessed you with this. Bob Montgomery was that person, and I'll always be blessed by him, so. Okay.
Is that too loud? Is that?
Oh, Christy.
Okay.
She's here.
All right. And like Mary, there's been a number of people that I look at, and I see core values that they display, and they really, it's from here that I look at, I just, I'm challenged by that and motivated. The first is my wife. And my wife has displayed the core value of mercy and compassion. And so that, that really challenges me because it's an area where I need to do better. So my wife is very merciful. My dad was a man of integrity, taught us integrity, our family. He was a guy that, came from really nothing. He tells a story. He went to Fort Hood, Texas at 18 years old with 50 cents in his pocket. That's all he had. He ended up being an entrepreneur and a very successful man. He was also very driven, and he was very competitive. And, those are some of the core values that I display that are not necessarily always positive, if channeled in the right direction. But he was certainly taught us to live a life of integrity. My mom, and I see my mom, and my mom displays a core value of genuine. She's just genuine. And I think that really is humility, when we're genuine. And so she just displays that core value more than anybody that I've seen in my life. And then lastly, my brother Mike. And my brother Mike really has displayed to me the value of being a servant leader. He puts, he's concerned about the people. He's concerned about people. And so, that particular core value he's displayed to me. So those are the 4 people that I in my life that have impacted me the most.
As I look back at, I try to look at this in different areas. My family, my professional influence, people who influence me from a professional perspective, and a spiritual perspective. My father had a profound impact on me, not necessarily from a spiritual perspective, but he taught me some core values as I reflect on it. Core values of work hard. You gotta earn what you get. It's not going to be given to you. So I learned that core value from my father. From a professional perspective, I've had both positive people that have influenced me, and I've had some people in my life from a professional perspective that have influenced me. I won't say influenced me negatively, but I looked at them and I said, there's no way I want to be like that person. And unfortunately, I think from a professional perspective, you bump up against a lot of those people. But from a professional perspective, I think one of the people that had a profound influence on my life was Matt Davidson, who was the president and CEO of Copeland before it became Emerson Technologies, as I look back there on the wall. Matt was a mentor of mine, and I learned a lot from him. And then as I transitioned from Copeland over to Amos Press, anyone that had any association with Oliver Amos could not help but be impacted by the positive things that Oliver Amos did in this community, the positive core values that he reflected, and that rubbed off on me as I became associated with the Amos family. And I've tried to the best of my ability, tried to carry on the core values that Oliver Amos instilled in all the people that work for Amos Press. I've tried to carry that on to the best of my ability. And certainly from, as many of you know, my journey, my journey started very late in life from a spiritual perspective, but the person that has had the most profound effect on my spiritual journey was Chris Heckman. He is a tremendous leader. Those of you who know him, I've often said that I'd hire him into my organization anytime from a leadership perspective, but from a spiritual perspective, I mean, he literally, along with a lot of other people, some of which are in this room, led me to the Lord, which was just a fantastic thing for me that happened late in life, and I wish it would have happened earlier. And then lastly, the person that has had a profound impact on my life is my wife. She's taught me humility that I probably didn't have. A how would you put it, not to take yourself so seriously. And so those are the 4 people that I would say impacted me significantly.
Incredible, isn't it? As you reflect and maybe as they're sharing the various different ones, people have come to your mind. Maybe you've never thought about that much. One of the things that I would encourage you to do is, have you ever gone back and thanked them for the impact that they've had in your life? Over the last several years, I've had people from all over the place call me out of the clear blue sky and just thank me for the impact that I had in their life. A guy that is now a captain with, he was with the Northwest, so he's now Delta. But he was flying through one of their hubs one time down the clear blue sky. I hadn't heard from him for a long, long time. I knew him when he was back at Naval Air Station North Island in San Diego. And I had just gone and talked to him about his spiritual journey way back when. And had no contact with him out of the clear blue sky. He just called and thanked me for my influence in his life. And he called me at a particular time in my life where I was discouraged. And just out of the clear blue sky, he says, I just want you to know you made a difference. And as you think about those people who made a difference in your life, a note even, an email or a call means a whole lot because those people are significant, right? And if they're gone, write a letter and just thank them. Write a tribute and say, hey, I want to give a tribute to this person. It's very meaningful. Well, let's talk a little bit about the bumps and bruises because as we go through life, we get those, and whether they're mistakes or relationships that go awry, misinformation that we get, but those are instructive in our growth, and they reflect either our core values or that sometimes we're making it about ourselves, a whole lot of different things, but they help us become people of significance. And Bruce, I'm going to start with you, if you don't mind, because Bruce and I have talked quite a bit about this, and Bruce, by his own admission, is a type A, driven at times, but competitive. And so he's had to learn some lessons even in the workplace, but in his personal life, as God has used various different ones and just his own growth process to shape and mold him. And Bruce and I have sat together on several occasions, both of us almost in tears of the grace that we see in each other's lives because of how God has shaped and molded us and extended grace to us as we've had to learn those various different things. So I wonder, Bruce, if you could get us started by just saying, how have you, in terms of the maturing and growth process, you've had to recalibrate a little bit your approach to going at things because you wanted to be successful, but how has God shaped and molded you to recalibrate that?
All right, thank you. Well, as Chuck was saying, we talked a long time about this aspect, and I've thought about this a lot in my own life. But Catherine and I lost a daughter in 1994, and so until about 2000, we were really it was just like a dark period, just a survival mode. But around 2000, my wife came to me and she just poured her heart out to me about things that were not right. And I realized then, at that point, I really meditated on it, and I thought to myself, am I really adding value to the world? I think we're talking about the same thing in life of significance. I just said, am I adding value to the world? Am I looking at I'm the center of the universe. To me, I was the center of my universe. It was all about me. And I recognized that there was no way I was going to lead a life of significance with that being the case. And we've talked about that. But So I really spent a lot of time and went away for weeks at a time, just meditating and praying and asking the Lord to reveal to me these things in my heart, the ungodly beliefs that I've developed in my own life. And so around 2000, I was like 43 at the time, so, spent a lot of time worrying about me, I guess. But, and then since then, it's been that journey of, 14 years of really, going, but always moving forward. And, as people that know me here can tell you that I don't always, I'm not always hitting the mark, but I see the target, and I understand that, to be significant, that, if you're a believer, the only thing that will endure is love. It's the only thing that will endure. Everything else is going to fade away. Love will endure into eternity. So with all of our decisions and when we undertake projects and those types of things, and I find myself thinking in terms of, yes, we're going to be more productive in this process, but the people that are working with you, are they going to achieve their dream in this process? Are they going to be better people? When we give to a charity, is that person, we're helping that person achieve his dream, and in so doing, he's helping others. So I really find myself looking at things in terms of how are the people that I'm going to associate with through this process going to be able to reach their dreams and reach their full potential. So hopefully it's...
I got a specific question I want to ask here. If you don't mind. Mary, you almost probably, if you look back at your, say, late high school, early college years, maybe wouldn't have gone to be an educator because you probably didn't have the highest grades growing up, but something clicked for you. And would you mind just sharing just a little bit of that?
Well, late in high school, my senior year, my dad and I, we had a pretty rough relationship. He's the oldest, I'm the oldest of the grandkids. There's just a lot of pressure there. Anyway, tell you a little bit about my grades. To try and get my dad's attention, I failed every single final. I thought that would get his attention. Well, it did. It got his attention real well. My maiden name's Braun, and he's every bit of a German. So anyway, his idea was I would paint all the shutters on the house that summer. It was a good follow-up to everything. Anyway, and later, what I've learned now being in education is that really I'm dyslexic. And back in those days, they didn't qualify people as dyslexic. So I struggled a lot of years with that. When I finally started college at age 32, I was what they call a non-traditional student. I think that means old. Anyway, I decided that, the Lord was much greater than I am, and He had already started a good work within me. And it would be Him that would finish that work. And so, through 3 kids in high school, my husband going to school full-time, and myself going to school full-time, and I ended up graduating magna cum laude. So it was really good. I went on to get my master's degree, but that was the Lord's, not really me. So, is that what you wanted me to say?
And then the tears were just an added bonus, but well, whether we actually show it, all of us usually have it inside, and it's just some just takes a little bit longer to get it out. But I guess the basic point is we don't really get there without having to deal with overcoming some things, and we all have those struggles. Dawn, how about you?
I'm not going to ask you what you want me to And then you choose to live with one parent, and that parent then chooses to move away, 45 minutes away from you. That's a difficult thing when you're 12 years old. And then, just many, many different things throughout the course of my life. I didn't always take the right path. I made a lot of bad decisions, but I do find that even though the bumps in the road were there, and even after very nice marriage, lots of bumps, Barry losing someone of great significance to him was a huge bump for us. Not sure why, a lot of questions about somebody so young passing. And then with all the dealing with my father, another bump. And at those points in the road, you can choose to go one way or go another. There were many days that I wanted to stay in my hole and be with that dark side and not face the world at that point. You can do that, or you can turn to God, and you can ask for His help in getting you through those times. And that's what I chose to do. I knew that I didn't know how to live my life without my dad. I didn't know. He had always been there from day one. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know how to get to the next positive point in my life. And I turned to God, and that was it. And turning to Him and relying and asking for help, it definitely helped me get over those bumps. But there were those days, definitely those days, and I feel like I'm still very young in my spiritual journey and have a ton of growing to do. I don't know that you ever stop growing and learning in your spiritual journey, but those first steps and those paths are getting me there. So, thank you.
Yes, but you have a special question for me?
Well, a little bit about your bumps and bruises along the way.
Okay. I've got a few, as we all do. One was the death of my father. My father had moved to Sidney to be closer to me, and in that period of time, my father and I got our relationship developed in a way that hadn't been before. We really became a lot closer, and he had a very sudden aneurysm attack, and I, in retrospect, felt like I personally underreacted to what was happening and didn't give him the kind of help that I thought he needed. Wilson at that point in time was not the best place to go for an emergency, and maybe that's why I ended up on the hospital board trying to do something there. And we didn't get into Dayton in time. He died down in Dayton, and I felt the personal responsibility for that, and it was very difficult for me to deal with. As in retrospect, unfortunately, I didn't have a close relationship with God at that point in time in my life either, so that wasn't able to help me through that. Another point in my life that was really a low point was going through a divorce and discontinuing of a relationship that had been for a long period of time. I guess one of the most concerning things for me at that point in time was my relationship with my two oldest sons and what happened with that. And I must say that in 2000, Bruce, about the same time that you say you had some epiphanies in your life, I had an epiphany in my life. And that was, I had to come face to face, and I did this during an Emmaus walk that I had. I came face to face with the fact that I had to admit to myself that I was a sinner, and that I needed God in my life. For me to be able to have Him, God be able to forgive my sins. And it was that point in time that I got down on my knees and prayed, accepted Jesus as my Savior. And what was interesting about that same time, my second son, so it came to find out, almost had the same kind of experience in coming to the Lord. And my son Steve and I have had shared that journey for the last 14 or 15 years, and it's really been a blessing in my life to have our journeys to be going on at the same time. So.
Well, we're just about out of time. Wish we could go a lot longer, don't you? Obviously, we could have gone a couple more routes in this whole thing about this discussion about significance. We could have overloaded it with a lot of academic information, point by point by point, and go out of here and not really have our lives impacted. So what I felt, and as Rich and I interacted together, particularly on this, is that let's drill down to a few of the things that we can get a handle on that will really make a difference. And even in the panel discussion today, we could have talked about information, but what better than to hear a person's story and their life and their journey. And I want to thank each one of you for your vulnerability, because each one, there's stories of brokenness, there's stories of loss, there's stories of discovery, but more than anything else, incredible stories of the power of redemption. And that God's in the redeeming business. And no matter where we are, He can take and redeem our life and move us to be a person of significance. We've got time for about one or two questions. As we talked about that, did anything come to mind that you would want to ask one of the panelists, or a point that you would like to make? Feel free, because we want to do that. Anyone at all? Well, if not, let's give a big round of thanks. We're going to move in the next session to the whole area of giftedness and discovering our giftedness and how to embrace that and take a tack on that. And so we'll be giving you more information on that. But I think we've had over these last couple of months some significant discussions together, and it's good to discover that together. Thank you for being here, and we look forward to the next time together. Since I didn't pray in the beginning, I'd like to just thank God for where we are and pray for each one of us here as we come to conclusion today. Father, thank you that you love us, that you have a plan for us, and it's not a plan for calamity, but it's for good. And that you have that for each one of us, that we would be people of significance, starting with our relationship with you, and then radiating out in how we interact with our world. Lord, thank you. Thank you for the ones who served on our panel today. Bless each one of them. Lord, continue to lead us and protect us. We give you the honor and praise. Thank you for this day. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you all.